Hello, members. This is Tom Morrison from the Metal Trading Institute right here in Jacksonville, Florida. I have with us today Mr. Paul and Craig from Bradley Morris Group. Say hi, guys.
Hello, guys.
So today we're going to talk about how to tap into the pool of military veterans. Many of you don't know it. There's over 200,000 military veterans that retire each year, and many of them are under the age of 30, and we're going to get into those details later on. Before we get into that, what I'd like to do is everybody can see on the right-hand side of your screen, it says say something nice. You can tap your cursor in there, and if you have any questions whatsoever of both Paul, myself, or Craig during this, you can feel free to ask. I'll be monitoring those, and I'll ask them, the panelists, as we go down this. But, you know, really, in the middle of this whole thing about hiring new people, we are in the middle of an 8-year problem. Not many people know that to hire people. We're going to probably be at less than a 4% unemployment rate at some point in time in 2018, and that's going to be very tough. The labor pool is shrinking, and not a lot of people know why, but I'm going to show you why right here. I have this picture here. These are the birth rates since 1925, and you can see that big one in the middle there. It's like a big valley called the Generation X. Generation X is right after baby boomers and before Generation Y, and there's 10 million fewer of them in the workforce than there were baby boomers. Baby boomers are between 53 and 73 and on their way moving out. Generation X is between 33 and 53, those primary 20-year working, and there's 10 million fewer of them in the process. So it's going to be another 8 years before all the millennials, the people, ladies and gentlemen, are between 6 years of age and 33 years of age. We're another 8 to 10 years before they all get in the workforce and replace all the baby boomers that are going to be retiring and make up for that difference. So that is why we have a big problem. So we have an 8-year problem, which makes all the more important while tapping into a new hiring force like the veterans that Craig and Paul are going to talk about today is so important for you listening and in this industry. It's incredible that we've been able to come across him. And just to show you all the power of networking and how we met Bradley Morris. So I was in an airport sitting there kind of waiting to have my plane flight in about an hour, and I happened to be having a lunch and a quick drink. And I happened to notice this guy across from me talking, and I heard him say something. He said the words military and job sentence. I'm thinking, what is he talking about? And as I listened to them talk, he was talking about how he works for a company that places military veterans in manufacturing and other key industries. Now he was talking to the left. I started talking to Paul, and we kind of connected, and he shared with me what they do. And I'm like, I think we want to talk with you. And so we met. And the board, I told them about it. The board put a task force together. They vetted Bradley Morris as well as a couple other military hiring firms and chose Bradley Morris because of their expertise and how well they do and how they brought themselves across in the group. But we're excited to have them as a part of the MTI story and helping us deal with this great problem that we have for the next 8 to 10 years, which is bringing on quality people. So what I'd like to do first off is I'd like to allow Paul and Craig to kind of give a little sense of their background and what they do and a little bit about Bradley Morris. So, Paul, let's start with you. Give a little bit of about 60 seconds about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be here. And yeah, a little bit about myself. Paul Minahan. I've been here with Bradley Morris for about 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I graduated the Naval Academy and with a degree in oceanography, went into the Marine Corps after that, flew helicopters on active duty for about 8 years. Upon leaving active duty, I transitioned to the reserves and also went to get my MBA at the College of William & Mary right up the road here from me in Williamsburg, Virginia. Worked Fortune 500 industry for a bit, and then this job at Bradley Morris came up. And so just like I said, for the last 2.5 years, been working with clients one-on-one to help them solve a variety of hiring needs in terms of management, leadership, engineering, and working across a broad brush of industries and across the nation. So that's a little bit of myself, and I'll kick it to Craig for an introduction on his end.
Thanks. So I am also a former helicopter pilot, but on the Army side. I'm an Army officer and have been separated now for about 21 years and have been with Bradley Morris that whole time. So I've watched us grow from a small regional company to really the national leader in finding veteran talent for military companies across the country. I am one of the managing partners here at the firm today. And, Tom, you hit the nail on the head earlier about it's a problem across all industries. It's a problem not only in the metal treatment industry, but really every industry that we're seeing today with unemployment, finding enough qualified talent. And we find that those veterans can really fill that void for a lot of companies and really provide another additional talent stream to be able to help fill those openings that they have.
Well, you know, it's incredible. Thank guys for your introductions and sharing with us. But it is a real viable tool because not a lot of people understand one of the big forces impacting the labor force right now is Uber and Lyft. Not many people know it, but Uber and Lyft are bringing on over 50,000 new drivers a month. Some of them are part-time. Some of them are actually full-time. I get into Ubers constantly, and the people I talk to, they're making anywhere from $250 to $700 a week. So they're either working part-time or full-time, but it's displacing about 600,000 workers a year that would be working in those plants potentially or in any industry. So this pool of military veterans is so crucial. So Paul, let's start with the question of, tell us about the pool of military veterans in general. What are their demographics? How big is it each year? What do they bring to the table for the world of manufacturing of like heat treaters providing a service?
Yeah, sure. A little bit about our candidate pool here at Bradley Morris. We actually have a sub company as well called Recruit Military. And we have a 1.3 million candidate database of candidates, some that are transitioning right now, some that have been out for a bit, and also some that are transitioning in the future. And what we target in terms of candidates is generally candidates that bring a skill set or some type of trade to the table, electricians, mechanics, that types of things, but also military officers that come with real world leadership experience, leading teams of 24 to sometimes upwards of 500 people. So all of our candidates have honorably served in the military. We don't represent candidates that have dishonorable discharges or other than honorable discharges. And we do interview screening with them before we ever send them to a company. In terms of the services, we take candidates from all services, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and they're coming from all all different parts of the military with all different skill sets. Everything from cyber warfare over to machinist mates, working down in the bottom of ships. And so, they're coming out of all different places. They came from all over America to join the military. They're getting out from generally major military installations. And when we bring them into our database, we work with them to try to figure out, hey, now that you're leaving the service, what do you want to do with your life?
Right.
What are your priorities? What does your family want to do? Where do you want to move to? And we help kind of guide them because, when you're in the military, if you do a 10 or 15-year career, you're kind of told where to go and what to do. And
right.
spend a lot of time doing analysis. So we kind of help them with that coaching portion as well.
So Craig, any thoughts from you on that process, on that?
Yeah, this whole process is a process on both sides. You've got the companies who are in some cases experienced with hiring military because they've got some military vets and they understand the value. But you've got some companies who may be wondering, hey, why is a military candidate going to fit into our corporation? I flew attack helicopters. I never interviewed for one company that wanted me to fly an attack helicopter.
Right.
But I had all the other intangible skills that these military candidates come out with. And, going to the most base skills of, they've got discipline. They've got a work ethic. They show up to work on time. They're drug-free. They're going to work until the mission is accomplished. It's a work to standard type of attitude as opposed to, hey, I'm working until 5 o'clock and then we're done. You've got all of those great skill sets that are there. And companies really, once they get introduced to that military talent, they begin to see, hey, this is a great resource. This is a great pool of talent. And then on the candidate side, what we're doing is we're educating those candidates into all of the different types of opportunities that are available to them out there. Because what the military does such a great job of is they cross-train you in so many different skills that are available out there. So you may be working on a tank as a mechanic. You're not going to work on too many tanks out in the civilian world, but those mechanic skills that you have can transfer really very easily into a number of different industries and all sorts of different companies that are out there.
Right.
So a lot of military candidates really don't realize how marketable they are and how their skills can fit into so many different organizations really across the country. I've yet to meet the company that I feel like can't use some military talent in the organization.
Right. So you spoke a little bit on it. You know, a study shown recently says that almost 50% of manufacturers, including heat treaters, have three big issues that they're bogged down with in terms of hiring people. One, people are not coming out of the general workforce, especially young people, with just general education knowledge, the aptitude to work in a manufacturing workplace. Two, they don't have ready to work skills, just basic skill sets. And there's a lack of wisdom and experience with the younger generation moving forward. And there's nothing we can do about that because they have to learn into that, somebody that's worked in an industry for 30 years. So how does all that you just talked about weigh into that process where when a military veteran walks on the scene, how they're able to wipe those issues away?
Sure. You know, we've all heard the term blue collar work ethic. The military really brings with it a great blue collar work ethic, no matter what your position. Paul and I were both military officers while we were in, but that didn't mean we sat in some ivory tower in an office somewhere wearing a suit and tie. You're down, your sleeves are rolled up, and you're ready to get the job done. And I remember going back 20 years ago when we started really trying to introduce companies who were hiring military officers who are great fits for managerial jobs and leadership type roles and engineering type roles. And that was really our core business. And we wanted to introduce these companies to all of these great technicians that were coming out. And the first time these companies really began to see these technicians, it was strange to them, and it was difficult because there was such a glut of technicians in the workplace. So it was a challenge back then. Fast forward 20 years to today, totally flip-flopped. You're right. There's not enough vocationally trained individuals in the workforce. You've got outside influences like your Ubers, your Lyfts, all of the different types of other jobs fighting for those individuals that are out there. And we've got a plethora of people, a stable of 1.3 million veterans, 200,000 every single year that are getting out, candidates who have the skills, who've got that work ethic, and who don't mind getting their hands dirty and getting into a career field that's going to maybe not be easy all the time. They're used to not having it be easy all the time, and they're ready to go to work. They're looking for not just a job, they're looking for that next career in their life experience as they transition out of the military into what's next for them.
So you talked about a lot of different things. Obviously, heat treating is a highly technical atmosphere. Lots of maintenance, lots of chemical, lots of gas, lots of quality, looking at contract review, engineering. Speak to the technical aptitude and abilities of the types of candidates that flow through your organization into places like MTI members.
Sure. So you're talking about highly technical, safety oriented. Well, look at what I did for a living. And we flew, but what did we really do? We had to manage a fleet of maintenance individuals, mechanics who were working on those aircraft. Safety was paramount. You've absolutely got life or death situations that these candidates are dealing with. So their attention to detail, their focus on quality work, their focus on safety is constant. It's never something that you can let slip in a military type of environment.
Right.
You've got individuals who are more highly technically skilled than you can imagine. You have folks who work on nuclear reactors in the Navy, and you talk about exacting standards and highly complicated individuals. You get some of the individuals that come off of submarines who are highly skilled, highly sought after individuals because of that aptitude to be able to go into any type of environment. And it's not just power companies looking to hire those individuals. Right. It's all sorts of companies who know, hey, I can throw anything technical in front of these candidates and they're going to be able to pick it up. But every military candidate goes through a series of vocational training for whatever skill set that they happen to be training for. And it's one of those things where if you're going to be a mechanic, you're going to be going through a series of training Siri thinks I'm talking to her when I said Siri. Sorry about that. But you're going to be going through maybe a 6-month training, a 9-month training for the nuclear program for those individuals I was talking about. Well over a year of training that you're going through to pick up those aptitudes. And Paul, I came from the Army, so obviously one world, but Paul coming from a different service, you might want to jump in and add something there.
Yeah, as much as I wish my job in the Marine Corps was like Top Gun and it seems like you flew every day. I mean, on an average week.
You mean it's not?
I was probably, no, it's, there's other stuff to do, I probably only flew 5 to 6 hours a week, about 30 hours a month. The rest of that work week was managing a shop of people, whether that be the maintenance side of the house. I worked a lot in operations doing scheduling. So we would get requests coming in from supported units. So in civilian terms, that would be like client requests, saying, hey, Paul, we need to move, 40,000 tons of cargo tomorrow. I'd have to call down to the maintenance department and say, hey, how are our assets doing? We'd have about 12 helicopters, can we support this? What are our maintenance shortfalls? And, when you work down in maintenance, you're dealing with the push-pull of making sure that you have parts available and trying to keep things running. And I think everybody that's run a manufacturing facility, if you run your equipment too hard and too long, if you don't do that periodic maintenance, you're going to have breakdowns. And that's something that everybody in the military can, relate to. And, the other thing about our candidates is in terms of just their skill set is I think a lot of them are very creative. When you're on a submarine and you're, 200 feet under the water, off the coast of North Korea and something breaks, it's not like, you can pop to the surface and pull into a Home Depot or Lowe's. You gotta figure it out with the assets that you have on hand. And, for better or worse, we've been having some budgetary issues with the government, for a continued extended period of time now. And, one benefit of that is that our candidates are really good at working in a cost-constrained environment.
Right.
Their first thought is not, oh, just go buy another part, go buy another piece, because we just really haven't had parts, And, the last thing I'd say is to the point about, especially the new community, they are a zero failure mentality. I mean, I think as Americans, we want and demand that our, actors never have a problem. And we all know that, anytime there's a mishap with the military, whether that be a helicopter crash or, a tank rollover or a ship collision like the Fitzgerald out in Japan, I mean, that's a national news event. You are on CNN, and that's, nobody in the military goes to work going, hey, I'm going to crash a ship today. They all go in going, I'm going to do my best. And, that's just after 4 or 8 years of doing that, that's just something that you get ingrained in that, hey, I'm going to go in and try to bat 1,000 today. So that's another great thing about our candidates.
So one of our members, Doug Scott from Jackson, Michigan, just asked a great question. So talk about the geography of where y'all recruit from. And I know there's programs in place with the U.S. government where they actually pay for the cost of a military veteran to transition. They don't pay for them to get the job. They pay for some of their transition stuff. Talk about that, where geography, how much it is in a play in a member being hired.
Sure. Yeah, I saw the question from Doug as well. I was going to jump on that one. So do we recruit only from Norfolk, Virginia? Absolutely not. Paul's in Norfolk, Virginia today. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where we both have offices. We have an office in Austin, Texas, San Diego, California, Cincinnati, Ohio, but we recruit worldwide. We literally have a team of recruiters, all former military, who are out and they're on the road and they're going to all of the places that military candidates are in order to bring those candidates into our system. And many times that may be a year, 2 years before that candidate is going to separate, because we're working with them to help prepare those candidates for that transition process. We get candidates from all over the world. We for the most part, have candidates who will live just about anywhere that you have a job, because there's always someplace worse. And I have companies who will come to us and say, hey, we've got a really difficult location. It's in Idaho. Okay, Idaho is more difficult than Virginia. It's more difficult than Atlanta. it's still better than a tent in Afghanistan. So we all
Right.
have candidates that are going to be willing to go somewhere. Sometimes it's a candidate who wants to go home. Sometimes it's a candidate who just wants to be back in a similar type environment. Sometimes it's a candidate who just wants the best job. That was me when I got out. I didn't really care where I went. I just knew I wanted a great opportunity that's there. Pursuant to the military relocation, the government has a program. They don't help the candidates find the jobs on the way out, but they do help them with their transition and their relocation as they're separating from the service. So really kind of depending on your rank and how many years of service that you had in, the government is going to provide some transition assistance. So if you're separating from Camp Pendleton and you are going to transition, which is out in California, and you're going to transition to a position in Ohio, there's a good possibility that the government is going to cover the cost of that relocation for that candidate. So that's not an additional cost that your member companies are having to pick up.
So pretty much geography is not an issue, correct?
Really, geography is not. You know, there are some locations easier than others. I have plenty. If you have locations, what's one of our easier ones? San Diego. I can fill all the jobs you want in San Diego because I have plenty of candidates who'd love to live there. But if you've got positions, I see folks on here from Cincinnati and from Wayne, Pennsylvania, and from all sorts of places. We've put candidates in every state of the union, just about every you think of. Literally over the years, we've placed well over 40,000 people into just about every industry that you can imagine.
So two big questions I have in my mind. So you talked about their technical aptitude and stuff. So talk about the use of technology to get the job done, embracing change, embracing new changes, embracing technology, embracing smart technology. A lot of our members, for lack of people, are having to be forced to really look at automation and how do you make someone way more productive by expanding their capacity through automation, not eliminating their job, but expanding their capacity. How's military veterans come out of the military into the workforce and adapt into using this fast changing pace of, and I imagine the military is changing as fast pace as well, but how do they embrace technology in terms of the teams?
Sure.
Yeah, I would say, just currently I could go to, what I do in the Marine Reserves now as a forward air controller. Just last month, I was in McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, and I've got a Samsung Galaxy tablet that I am figuring out my solutions on how I'm going to bring aircraft into the target area to deliver ordnance on targets. So I'm literally there, and there's people in Afghanistan and Iraq right now using tablets, and they're beaming the data up to aircraft overhead. And, the military has some of the most advanced technology in the world. Right. The F-35 and the F-22 are some of the most advanced fighters. When I just look at the kind of scope of my career over the last 15 years, when our mechanics were going out to work on the helicopter, back in the day, they would be logging out, 20 pounds of publications. They'd be literally sitting on top of the aircraft, tracing schematics, trying to figure out an electrical issue or hydraulic issue. And now they're walking out there with laptops.
Right.
So, data is coming to the military, and all of our logbooks on the aviation side, all of our maintenance stuff, it's all on the internet. It's all beamed back to the cloud. And every time a F-35 lands on an aircraft carrier or a ship, they do a data download. It's about 1 terabyte of data, and it goes all the way back to the United States. They do an analysis on that. So our candidates are pretty savvy, and it was really neat watching them. Even when I go out now, they've figured out ways to turn military radio batteries into iPhone chargers and tablet chargers. Like my radio operator that travels everywhere with me is always coming up with solutions to make sure that my electronics are keeping running so that I can drive the fight and all that type of stuff. So yeah, they're pretty tech savvy. They'll keep on top of stuff.
That's good, because I think that's going to be a big wave of the next 5 to 10 years in heat treating is organizations in our industry becoming technology-driven companies that actually do heat treating. Every industry is being forced to really look at how technology is impacting. It's nice to know that the military vets coming out are really tuned into that. So Craig, you hit on one thing when you said when you came out, you were looking for an opportunity. So when these vets are coming out, one, talk about some of the demographics of their average ages, and then what are there different things that they're looking for, different things that are important to them that our members need to hear when they're talking to them and preparing a package. What are the big things that on their checklist that say, maybe the guy that's under 35 is his priorities different than the person that's over 35? Trying to weigh in on what they're looking for, what's important.
Sure. So I'll try to break down that demographic a little bit for you. As you're looking at the military as a whole, as they're separating, you've got about 8% of the military population that's going to be transitioning as a military officer, like Paul and I. Those are the individuals that are graduates of West Point, Annapolis, or ROTC units. Those are your managers, oftentimes your degreed engineers, could be project management, operations management, those types of things. Those individuals can have anywhere from 5 years of experience up through typically 20 years of experience, and range from, I would say, your entry, you're transitioning 03 or captain, in Paul and I's sake, coming out of the Marines and the Army. That individual is going to be looking for compensation somewhere between probably $70,000 and $90,000 a year on the officer side. And a lot of that's dependent on geography and where you're after. On the enlisted side of the house, that's the 92% of the force. This is a much more broad level of individual that's coming out. You've got some individuals who joined the Army right after high school, signed up at 18 and went in and did a 4-year tour. And now they're transitioning and they're 22 years old, and they're looking for really a first civilian career. Those individuals could be anywhere from maybe $17, $18 an hour on up to, in the 30s per hour, depending on the skill sets that they have. But you also have individuals who might have joined right out of high school at 18, and they've done a 20-year career, and they're getting out, they're retiring from the military, but they're still 38 years old, and they've got a lot in the tank. And those individuals are going to go not necessarily into the technician type of roles, but they may go into a supervisor type of role, or a production type of manager type of role, a team leader, something along those lines. Those individuals usually have a family. About 40% of them have acquired their degree throughout their military service while they've been in. And oftentimes what they're looking for, stable company, good opportunity to start, also an opportunity to see themselves growing with a company, and opportunities there. They're looking for other military individuals who have been able to succeed in that company. Hey, are there former military candidates, who've come into this company and done well? I saw a Marine earlier who had joined on, Semper Fi. That's awesome. That's a story that you want to tell to these candidates, being able to say, yeah, I was you. I made this transition, and company XYZ has been a great opportunity for me. Military is also a great source of diversity, if that's something that's important to your organization. We typically average right around 35% of all of our placements are technically either ethnically or gender diverse candidates that are getting out. And the military is really just a great melting pot of individuals, just like the country that happens to be out there.
So Doug asked another good question. I want to get to Bob Hill's question and the flow of things, but is there a part of manufacturing, or what is the broad range of skill sets can they pretty much be placed in just about any manufacturing style work because of their basic skill sets?
Individual. So, and I saw Doug's question there as well. Everything from mechanics, electricians, line operators that are coming out in a manufacturing environment. That's obviously stuff that the maybe a 4 to 8 year enlisted man or woman would be qualified to do. Production supervisors, team leaders, production superintendents, maintenance. Maintenance is a big one for us. And warehouse management. You have individuals that are qualified there, all the way up through plant engineers, production managers, plant managers that we've placed in a variety of different organizations that are out there. So really, it kind of runs the gamut from really that lower level operator type position up all the way through plant managers.
Awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about 30,000 foot level, slowly coming into now. I want to get down to the ground level of, okay, these people that are watching, and many of our members around the country say, I have a need to want to place someone in my plant. From their end, I know they can go out to our website at heattreat.net and click on the military staffing link and fill out the information. And as soon as y'all get an email that says, hey, here's the information we need to do. Now, from that moment on, what is the flow from kind of that moment y'all get an inquiry? How do y'all prepare the employer, the military veteran? What's the process through hiring? And you can see, I want you to kind of tie in Bob Hill's question as well. Obviously, he says, how do you screen for PSTD symptoms and just the total candidate process where they know they're getting a good candidate from top to bottom?
Sure. I'm going to let Paul jump on this one because Paul's going to be the guy that's actually the first line of defense there that's getting those leads that are coming in. So, Paul,
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as soon as I get that email notification, you know, I would be trying to call you back or via email within about 24 hours to kind of discuss the position a little bit further, and just want to do about a 15 to 20 minute intake call with you to kind of get a little bit more detailed about kind of what the position entails, you know, what would they be doing on a daily basis, just kind of get a little bit more beyond the job description, confirming the location, you know, and confirming any preferences that you may have. You know, I have a client in New Jersey that particularly likes to hire people that have some connection to New Jersey, whether that be family or whatever. You know, there's just certain preferences, and you know, just want to cover that. At that point, what we'd like to do is move forward, and what I would do is put your job into our database as a job order, and we'd move to our target hire format. What this is a what we'd like to do is set a date about 7 to 10 days out in the future and set up some virtual phone interviews. Typically is a good way to start. So I understand what your job is. I have it in my system. We run an algorithm, a proprietary algorithm that we here at Bradley Morris in our system called RecruiterWare, which we've patented. And basically the candidate, we run it against our candidate database, and we come up with a candidate match. And it says, you know, hey, Paul, you know, it looks like this candidate here is 83% qualified. So I run that against the entire database. I cut it down to about 200 candidates from there. And then even we can cut it down a little bit more, at which point the recruiting side of the house gets involved, and they start calling the candidates and doing a more in-depth screening based on our conversation. You know, making sure that they're comfortable with the location, with what the job entails, making sure that they have the skill sets to be successful in that job. Once they pass that level of screening, they come to me, at which point I'd push them to you. And with that target hire, what we'd like to do typically is set a date. Typically ask clients, I say, hey, give me a block of time, maybe in an afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m. And what I'll do is block that off on your calendar. And what I'll do is, you know, depending on how long you want to do the interviews, typically about a half-hour phone interview to conduct phone screens, and I'll send those candidates over ahead of time. I'll send the resumes, and also I'll do a detailed summary that gets more in depth in the resume. And at the assigned time in your calendar, what I would do is all you got to do is bring up that meeting notice, call that candidate, and conduct the interview, and then we can talk afterwards. And I think it's important to, you know, mention that it's contingent based. So if you're not happy with the candidates that you interview, we can either recalibrate, and that doesn't cost anything to interview our candidates. So, you know, hopefully I didn't get too in depth on that, but to kind of answer the PTSD question as well. You know, we have conversations with our candidates. We screen them, you know, talk to them about their background. We don't get too much into medical or privacy issues just due to, you know, certain legal reasons and all that type of stuff. But, you know, I think, you know, PTSD does get a lot of, you know, a lot of visibility. It's an important issue. But on average, the candidates that I talk to, I don't find it's too much of an issue. I mean, the good thing about the drawdown now with the war is that a lot of our candidates within the past 4 or 5 years, you know, a lot of them haven't even really been overseas, so they haven't really been exposed to that scenario as well. So it's a lot different now than it was, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. But you know, we're very comfortable, very personal with our candidates, and you know, work with them. And you know, overall, I don't think we've run into a lot of that. Maybe Craig, you want to add some stuff?
Yeah, it's really not a big issue for us. I mean, the the VA and a lot of the government agencies have made some great strides in really trying to get those individuals help who need it when they're getting out. One of the things I wanted to highlight that Paul was talking about, and he made it sound very, very easy, which it should be very easy to the client, to you, the corporate client that's looking to hire military. But what we're doing when you give us a job order is we are screening, picture this giant funnel. And we've got, again, those 1.3 million candidates that are going into the top of that funnel. And we are screening candidates, not just locally, not just candidates who have got, a tie to Cincinnati if you're looking to hire in Cincinnati. But we're screening candidates from all over the world who are stationed at any place that we could have a military installation, who might have some interest in living in Cincinnati, who will have the skill set that you're looking for. So you're getting access not to just a local candidate, but to a worldwide candidate pool that's there. And yes, you're going to get the resumes. We're going to set up the interviews. Here's one of the best tips I can give you to be successful for your membership, Tom, as you're starting this process. Trust us as the subject matter expert when it comes to interviewing these individuals. If we've gone through the time to find an individual and screen an individual, and we have deemed that candidate to be a good fit for you, interview the candidate, because you're going to look at the resume, unless you're prior military, and you're going to think, what is this? This person was a helicopter pilot, a nuclear submariner. This is not a fit for what I'm doing. Stop. Put the resume down. Talk to the individual.
Right.
Talk to the candidate. And when you're talking to a military candidate, you've got to understand they're going to be a little bit different than the average candidate, than the average millennial that you're interviewing right now. The military candidate is trained and well-versed, and you'll rarely hear that candidate say, I did anything. It's always we. It's always, as a part of a team, we were able to accomplish this. So you've got to pull a little bit out of that candidate. Tell me what you did. Explain your military role to me. Explain how you think that might be a fit for the position that we have going on, and learn from them and be able to extract that information out of them. You'll warm them up. You'll make them feel more at home, and you'll increase your knowledge as well when it comes to talking with those candidates. And what we'll soon figure out, Paul said, something, we're a contingent agency. We're not going to put somebody in front of you that we don't think is a great fit, because it's not doing any of us any good to do.
Right.
We're putting that individual in front of you, and oftentimes at the beginning of a relationship, we're both calibrating. We're learning about you, the client. We're learning that, hey, this is the job description that you gave us, but really you have a penchant for Marine Corps candidates as opposed to Air Force candidates. And you may not know that you have that bias, but just based off of some of the things that you're looking for, we'll be able to get that match tighter and tighter and tighter until eventually, we're sending really, really great fits to you for those positions that you give us.
Right. That's awesome to hear. So now they've heard about the flow of the interview process and the selection process. So give them a sense of what should life be like in the first 90 days. Military vet walks on course, comes in that first day, in the next 90 to 120 days. What are some tips that they need to be aware of? Because obviously I bet they should treat them differently than a typical person coming in, because they have been in incredible situations, dire situations.
Well, I don't know that I'd use the words treat them differently. Treat them just like you treat a regular employee. Bring them into the family. Don't treat them as that's that crazy military person over there, and I don't know what they've done. I'm not going to talk to them. Embrace the candidate. They're going to be ready. They're going to be ready, boots on the ground, in order to learn as much as they can. So the best thing you can do is have a good program in place to really just give as much knowledge to that candidate as possible. That can be a formal training program, or it can be totally informal on-the-job training where you're giving the individual a mentor, someone to shadow. Watch Bob and do what Bob does. It can be something that is structured for a short period of time. But what you want to do is you want to check in with those candidates. You want to be very honest with them, be very direct with them as to how they're doing, how they can improve, what they need to work on. This is what I need you to focus on over the next 90 days. Introduce them to any other military candidates that you may have at the organization. Because walking into a plant and realizing, hey, there's another Army guy over there and a Marine over there, there's an instant rapport that goes on between those individuals already. You'll find that it just makes it that much easier to hire and retain individuals that are.
Well, I guess I asked that question out of the point of not that they're treated differently because they came from the military, but more of, so can there be a step up in how you treat them, because they come with a highly disciplined and defined work ethic, as opposed to most people walking in, especially younger, who don't have a lot of just basic working skills. So is there things that you don't have to do because you don't want a new candidate, because you don't want it to be too basic, in my opinion, if they come in. You want it to be challenging for them so they can really engage in the workforce, instead of, because they are disciplined, they've handled some incredible mechanic or repair issues, so they don't have to worry with the base stuff. So I would assume that there's a whole level of issues you don't have to deal with a military candidate just because they have worked for 4 to 20 years.
Sure, we'd like to think so. They should be able to come in and really hit the ground running. They're not going to be an entry-level candidate. They're going to be a candidate who oftentimes what you need to do is clearly define their role, their mission, what defines success for that candidate. Make sure everybody's on the same page, and they'll go.
Gotcha.
I'd love to hit Tara, if I'm pronouncing that right. Just had a question there on the bottom right.
Sure.
We have unskilled labor as well. And this really kind of goes to one of the changes that we've had in our organization over the last year. Tara, the Bradley Morris organization as a whole, we focus on the skilled labor, the skilled technicians, the supervisors, the managers, the engineers, all those positions we've been thinking about. And that's what we do on a contingency basis or a retained basis in some cases, because that's where the demand is. But if you've got unskilled labor positions as well, we've got another organization that we purchased about 1.5 years ago called Recruit Military, headquartered right there out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And Recruit Military does job fairs around the country where you'll find a lot of that unskilled labor. So if you need some entry-level $13 to $15 an hour non-skilled labor to work someplace, Paul and I are not going to be doing that on a contingent basis, but Paul can absolutely put you in touch with a job fair that would be viable for you to attend, or we can do some advertising in the database that we have in order to fill those roles as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can also a targeted email and say, hey, I want to contact every military veteran within 100 miles of my location with an email. And that email would be generated, but it would come from me, and it would say, hey, I'm Paul with Bradley Morris. You've been identified by one of my clients as a potential fit for this company. And we could put whatever information you want, whether we want to be specific or not specific, and we can get that email out and kind of canvass the area, and we can tailor that to we could go national with it, we could go smaller, and that's all something we can work on. And additionally, with Bradley, with Recruit Military, they put out an on-base magazine, so that's another way to reach out to potential candidates as well. So we've got a full suite of options that kind of covers the whole spectrum now with that acquisition on Recruit Military.
That sounds great. So now they've talked about the technical end, I want to kind of move into the last phase, which is a lot of our people, once you come in and you work, say, in the maintenance area or the quality area or the engineering area, they begin to become someone that they want to make into management. So talk a little about the management skills. I mean, most people today are not leaving jobs because of the company. They're leaving jobs because they hate their boss. So talk a little bit about the types of management skills and personalities that come out of those, and what levels they can really function as management as well.
Sure. One of the common misconceptions that a lot of people have when they first get introduced to military is that they're all screamers and yellers, and to go back to Tom, to our age, maybe the Sergeant Carter character.
Oh my goodness.
Who was yelling and spitting all over you while he was doing that. And that's just really not today's military. Your military officers are trained extensively throughout their entire collegiate educational process and then groomed from position to position to position to take greater positions of responsibility, because they are your leaders of the military. Those military officers, they're going to get hired into a project manager role, but their destiny, if you will, their common career path is to move up the ladder. And a lot of companies will hire military officers because what they're looking for really is to replenish the bench strength of the organization. Hey, we look and we see we're going to be losing 18% of our workforce due to the baby boomers exiting the workforce over the next 6 years. We've got holes to fill, and we can't just bring somebody in off the street to be a plant manager. So we need to hire somebody now as a production supervisor so they can grow into that role that's there. A lot of the same characteristics you will see with those senior non-commissioned officers. So the enlisted individual who's gone, but who's not there 4 years, but who's there 8, 10, 15 years, who started off as a technician, but now who's grown into a expanding capability and expanding leadership role along the organization. But the military trains you to always be expecting and striving to move to that next level of increased responsibility. That is that is bullseye for what our candidates do.
That's exciting to hear. Well, I think we really kind of touched on everything that we wanted today. So, Paul or Craig, any final comments that you would have for people watching?
I would just say thank you to all of you for your interest in hiring veterans, and very happy to talk to you and kind of get the word out about Bradley Morris Recruit Military, and we look forward to working with you in the future on some of your hiring needs.
Yeah. Again, thank you for your time, everyone. It was great speaking today. If you have questions, if you have concerns, Paul and I are more than happy to answer those. But if you've got a need to bring in some military talent, we've got a solution for you, and a solution that will fit your budget, frankly. Everything from your non-skilled all the way up through a degreed electrical engineer that you're looking to bring into a facility. We've been doing it 25 years for thousands of companies. We'd love to add you guys to our client list. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. So members out there listening, if you want information, you can go to MTI's website and click on the industry links, MTI services, and you'll see it says military staffing. Click that, and we have just a load of information on this program and our partnership with Bradley Morris. We're excited to work with them to help put military veterans back to work and transition them. It's an exciting time for MTI as well as Bradley Morris. And what I want to end on, members, is stay tuned for December 19th. Put December 19th on your schedule. That'll be the next Heat Treat Live, and we're going to be talking about the technical specifications. Lots of changes coming down with the AMS 2759 specs and many of the other slash specs, as well as CQI-9 and NADCAP issues. So December 19th from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, you'll be getting an email on that. You'll want to RSVP and be there, have your quality managers, your quality team, and everybody watching that show, because we're going to talk about some great things on portable hardness testing and just things that are changing that are going to come into 2018. So Craig, Paul, thank you very much. MTI members, thank you for watching, because you're not strong, you're MTI strong. Have a great Christmas and a good holiday season. We'll see you in December.